All right, so I wanted to talk for a second about Kirchhoff's law. Now we've talked about Ohm's law, now this is Kirchhoff's law. There's not a heck of a lot of difference. They're just kind of a different math calculation, and Kirchhoff's law is even easier than Ohm's law. And it's more of like common sense, and you can kind of think through it, do a little simple math in your head kind of stuff, okay? Now Kirchhoff's law, what it says is the inputted voltage to a circuit is the same amount that is used by that circuit. So what it's saying is if you have a circuit that has 12 volts applied to it, it will use 12 volts. So let's draw a circuit really quick, and I want to show you this. So if we had a battery, let's go ahead and use a battery for this one. And I'm just gonna, oops, those are bad. All right, we got a negative, we got a positive. We're going to come up from the battery, and we're going to go into, we're just going to draw it as a resistor. Go down, and come back. So now, if this has 10 ohms on it, but the applied voltage is going to be 12 volts, it's going to take 12 volts to go all the way around this circuit, or to do whatever that resistor wants to do. So if this was a light that took 10 ohms, it would take 12 volts to power that light. Same being said, even if the light was per se 20 ohms, it would still take 12 volts. Now this is really interesting when we start talking about parallel circuits, or series circuits. So in a series circuit, what we have is, I'm just going to draw two light bulbs. Light bulbs are a lot more fun than resistors. Okay, so if I had two light bulbs, now let's put these each at 10 ohms per se. Now, again, we have two light bulbs here. So again, the circuit is going to have 12 volts applied to it, so it's going to use up 12 volts to power it. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about voltage drop. Now, voltage drop is saying that across these two loads, we're going to use up 12 volts, because that's the applied voltage. That's Kirchhoff's law. So what's the voltage drop across one of these loads? Well, that one's pretty easy. If we have 12 up here, 12 volts here, and we have 0 volts down here, well, that would mean that each one of these is taking half of that voltage. So the voltage drop across this one will be 6 volts, and the voltage drop across this one will be 6 volts. Oops, that's a 60. 6 volts. So you're going to see some test questions that are going to ask you a little bit about this kind of stuff. The main thing I want to point out is, for right now, we're only working with identical light bulbs or identical resistors in these circuits, and to figure out what the voltage drop across. But it doesn't matter if you have 120 volts up here. It doesn't matter if it's AC or DC. The applied voltage to a circuit will be the same amount of voltage drop you have in that circuit. So if you guys got any questions on this, please let me know. This is a little bit more of a complicated topic. It's a little bit hard to think through, but just know that if you had two lights or two resistors in a circuit, that inputted voltage will be divided across both of those evenly. All right, let me know if you guys got any questions.